I'm Molly Reed, your Volusia County community correspondent. The Volusia Sheriff's Office and FBI have now arrested dozens of people tied to a motorcycle gang here. They tell us that out of the 31 people they have arrest warrants for, 28 of them have been captured so far.
Hey, Patriots. Welcome back to America First, your source for real talk about what's happening in our great nation. I'm your host, and if you're new here, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe because we're going to dive deep into the stories that matter to hardworking Americans like you and me. Today, we're talking about some breaking news out of Volusia County, Florida, where Sheriff Mike Chitwood and the FBI just conducted a massive operation against the Mongols motorcycle gang. Now, folks, this is exactly the kind of law enforcement action we need to see more of across this country.
It's game on now. It's game on because there's going to be a treasure trove of evidence that's going to lead to more and more indictments and arrests and put all the motorcycle gangs on notice.
We met up with the SWAT team and deputies around 5 a.m. to see firsthand this months-long investigation come together.
The concern is that, the violence amongst these groups are starting to increase, and we're not going to tolerate that.
We rode with Sheriff Mike Chitwood and Chief Brian Henderson first to Mongol members' homes where they were woken up and arrested.
I have no doubt that this morning will just be a trigger to other crimes and things that may have happened in the past.
Then we went to the motorcycle club's clubhouse in Edgewater.
Any occupants of the Mongols clubhouse, this is a search warrant. Come out with your hands up.
Investigators finding weapons and cell phones and other technology during the search warrants they'll comb through now.
This is the beginning. This isn't the end. This is the beginning. You are not going to come into my county and think it's the Wild West and think you're going to own the streets.
Back in March, there was a shooting between rival gangs at the racetrack gas station off State Road 44 in New Smyrna.
And a lot of people think that, that shooting happened and we arrested the shooter, or New Smyrna Beach, we worked with them, they arrested the shooter, and that was it. But what they didn't know is that day, a massive investigation started into that organization.
The Sheriff's Office, FBI, and Attorney General's Office all looking into the Mongols, finding members across Florida and in other states. All agencies debriefing after the roundup. Now, dozens face active rioting charges in connection to the shooting.
You don't have to actually shoot and hurt somebody to do some serious time. So I think this aggravated rioting is a great start to allow the investigations to proceed, and it sounds like as we continue to find weapons and other evidence, this could lead to additional charges.
And we're told this is actually one of the first cases in this state where they are using that new active rioting charge. I believe it's actually one of the first two cases here in Florida to use it. Now we're told on top of finding the Mongols today, they also collected 30 handguns and 15 long guns. So that is leading them to think they might be tied to other crimes. In Daytona.
Let me break down what happened here. After a shooting between rival gangs back in March at a gas station in New Smyrna Beach, law enforcement didn't just arrest a shooter and call it a day. They launched a months-long investigation that just culminated in the arrest of 28 out of 31 targeted gang members. That's what real police work looks like. People, Sheriff Chitwood said something that really resonates with me. He told these criminals, "You are not going to come into my county and think it's the Wild West and think you're going to own the streets." Now that's the kind of sheriff we need in every county in America. A man who understands that law and order isn't negotiable. What's particularly impressive about this operation is the coordination between local, state, and federal agencies. The Volusia Sheriff's Office, FBI, and Attorney General's Office all work together to track down Mongols members not just in Florida, but across multiple states. This shows what happens when law enforcement is properly resourced and allowed to do their jobs without political interference. They recovered 30 handguns and 15 long guns during these raids. Now, I want to be clear here. As conservatives, we absolutely support the Second Amendment and the right to bear arms. But when you're talking about criminal organizations using firearms to terrorize communities, that's a completely different story. These aren't law-abiding citizens exercising their constitutional rights. These are criminals who have forfeited their rights through their actions. What's also significant is that Florida is using a new active rioting charge in this case. This is one of the first two cases in the state to utilize this tool. Governor DeSantis and the Florida legislature have been proactive in giving law enforcement the tools they need to crack down on organized criminal activity and civil unrest. This is what happens when you have leadership that backs the blue instead of pandering to the defund the police crowd. The sheriff made it clear that this is just the beginning, not the end. He expects this operation to lead to more arrests and put all motorcycle gangs on notice. That's the message we need to send to criminal organizations across this country. If you want to engage in violence and intimidation, law enforcement will come down on you with the full force of the law. Now, contrast this with what we see in other parts of the country, where progressive prosecutors refuse to prosecute criminals, where bail reform puts dangerous people back on the streets, and where law enforcement is handcuffed by politicians more concerned with political correctness than public safety. Florida shows us what's possible when you have leadership that prioritizes the safety of law-abiding citizens over the comfort of criminals. This operation also highlights the importance of supporting our local sheriffs and police departments. Sheriff Chitwood and his team spent months building this case, working with federal partners and planning these coordinated raids. This is the kind of professional law enforcement that keeps our communities safe, and it's exactly why we need to back our boys in blue. The bottom line is this. Folks, we have a choice in this country. We can either have law and order, or we can have chaos. We can either support law enforcement and give them the tools they need to protect our communities, or we can coddle criminals and watch our neighborhoods deteriorate. Florida made their choice, and 28 gang members are now off the streets because of it. This is what happens when you have strong leadership that isn't afraid to take on the bad guys. This is what happens when you have a sheriff who understands that his job is to protect law-abiding citizens, not to worry about the feelings of criminals. And this is what happens when you have a state government that backs law enforcement instead of undermining them. Patriots, this story should give us hope. It shows that when we elect the right people and give law enforcement the support they need, they can and will protect our communities. But it also reminds us that we need to stay vigilant and continue supporting candidates who understand that public safety isn't negotiable. That's all for today's video. What do you think about this operation in Florida? Let me know in the comments below. And remember, if you want to stay informed about the stories that matter to patriotic Americans, make sure you're subscribed to America First and hit that notification bell. Until next time, stay strong, stay patriotic, and remember that America comes first.